is a reflection of the adversity into which our nation has been plunged. And the comparison is not between their PhDs and the fact that you are residing in their country. Learning and education is the most important resource a human being can acquire.
John Dramani Mahama, the next president of Ghana.
And if you had a PhD and you had an opportunity to travel, you'll be a more high-value citizen in that country that you have gone to.
Former President John Dramani Mahama Edna Noato a ongoing debate yebeto dwache say binomo che say so we Dutch passport Holland and Netherlands friend Dutch passport and a visa let me put it that way unya bia ho won so chan obi a ko school e Ghana okura PhD ensi mi na no edin former president na no abetum o che say adewe nanka hu hia se beye na nso na omamu bone MPP amanyuko yi Ghana for namu na ama obi epekwan atu Africa na akwa amanone na obi nsa akoka na yi we ya be achinje ahyew anka kana yenka obi a akọ school akobo ni degree sei nya ni PhD ani obi a ono watu kwan akonya visa nka yere compare nyi na nso no amamu point ene yetin dia compare na yi watoto bi e dia mane MPP aban na Addo Akuffo na Dr. Bawumia dano na Bawumia nso watoto bi aman no se ense presidency wo no enye jokers ene ko kanse hu ade cha no ko kan we ase wo joku na wonunu hu ana wo sere ase agudie bi wo Bawumia na ni so ebiem Bremanhene bafo wodna no ato nsemi mu a wono so atoto bi e de amane MPP amanyuko na no akra na ogina oka se ono de ohunu se the next president e wo Ghana John Dramani Mahama wa hyen komato no so ense ne de anotin hifa na asemi ko so nya botre na hwe video no pa ye ba e de honte ho pebra Christian Service University College public lecturer and a lecturer Dr. and John Dramani Mahama na woma and otutu sansemi inya botre na hwe video no. Subscribe.
It is a reflection of the adversity into which our nation has been plunged. Otherwise, there's no basis of comparison between a visa and a PhD. A PhD is about learning and education. A visa is an opportunity to travel and reside somewhere. But you forget that where you are residing, there are people with PhDs too. And the comparison is not between their PhDs and the fact that you are residing in their country. Learning and education is the most important resource a human being can acquire. And if you had a PhD and you had an opportunity to travel, you'll be a more high-value citizen in that country that you have gone to. And so there's no basis. It's like comparing apples and what fruit should I use? Normally they use oranges. Like apples and Addo to be. And so that debate should not be taking place at all. It's taking place because of the crisis into which this government has plunged our country. And in the debate, I note that an overwhelming majority have opted for obtaining passports and a visa to travel. And this signals a complete loss of confidence and hope in the future of our country. What this teaches us is that a democracy that does not lead to qualitative improvements in the lives of the people holds no meaning for them. With the national spirit sinking to an all-time low and hopelessness engulfing our country, a change in governance and direction has become absolutely imperative. Therefore, I've decided to run for office as president in this election. I believe that my experience and disposition are needed at this moment of crisis to provide the kind of leadership that can address the myriad challenges we're facing as a nation. I'm keenly aware of the weight of expectation that will rest on the shoulders of the next government, given the dire economic situation in which we find ourselves. Real work must go into winning back the trust of our people, winning back their trust in democratic governance and its structures. In my campaign for the presidency this year, I focused on communicating well-considered policy options to restore strength to our economy and create jobs for our restless youth.
John Bremanhene Mahama, the next president of Ghana. Takes over power on the 7th of January 2025. One of his policies should be about scholarships that are given to Ghanaians to go and study abroad. Study courses that are offered here in Ghana. You know, when they send you abroad, focus our attention on truth, honesty, and ethical behavior. Why would I get up and say that KNUST is performing very well, so I'm selling it to the highest bidder? Simply because there is a theory propagating the usefulness of private enterprise. It is not everything that we can just privatize like that. If government is doing well in certain sectors, it must be encouraged to do that. And even in the private sectors, where government cannot, where the private sector players cannot perform well, government must take over. Because now we have many professionals among the youth of this country. I could go on and on and on. But the main speaker, the former president, is here. The incoming president. And I believe every one of the words that I have spoken. He is coming back. Thank you very much. The
MPP described it as the best and fairest election that has ever been held. In 2020, a lot of things went wrong. And we don't accuse the Electoral Commission for nothing. There were circumstances that we have raised over and over again about the Electoral Commission not being neutral. Indeed, it might also be the fact that this government concocted reasons to remove the 3 electoral commissioners and replace them with people of their choice. Some of those who are appointed to the commission are people with known NPP credentials. Even though the president has the power to appoint, you must make sure that the person you appoint has no iota or evidence of partisan political affiliation. But this president doesn't care. People who were patrons of TESCOM today are sitting on the Electoral Commission. If you go to Bono and ask, one of the commissioners, deputy commissioners of PhD, was their elections director, he was their IT director, he was their communication, one of their communicators. Today he's sitting on the Electoral Commission. How do you expect somebody like that to be fair and neutral? And so, not only in terms of the appointment, but also in terms of acts of omission and commission, this Electoral Commission has shown that it cannot be neutral. A commissioner said that NDC was the most serious existential threat to Ghana's democracy. A commissioner. And he is still a commissioner. He described NDC as the biggest existential threat to Ghana's democracy. And he's still there. How do you expect somebody like that to conduct a free and fair election? And so, we need, despite the adversity, that the Electoral Commission will do its best to prove me wrong in this election. We are not asking them to rig any election for us. We are just asking them to be free and fair and let the will of the Ghanaian people prevail. That's all we are asking. But, like Azuma Nelson said, this time we are going into the ring with our own referee. And that is what happened when Azuma went to fight Jeff Fenech in Australia. And Ghanaians were upset with Azuma because he accepted to go and fight in Australia. And he said Ghanaians shouldn't worry. And that he's going into the ring with his own referee. And everybody was confused who his referee was. And he said his referee are his punches. And that he will punch Jeff Fenech to the extent that when the man is down, you can't declare him the winner. And truly that's what he did. I think it was round 5. Jeff Fenech was on the floor, he couldn't get up. Which referee will come and say that Jeff Fenech won the fight? So we're going into this battle with our own referee. We will punch the MPP down so hard that the Electoral Commission cannot and will never declare them as winners. We will emerge, I'm certain of it. Multiple amounts of money for every security service application. And so these are some of the reforms we are considering. But we'll continue to roll out fiber, we'll continue to roll out the platforms so that we can run our digital applications on. But government doesn't have to do everything. The private sector can also establish its digital platforms so that they can provide a service. And there are many Ghanaian companies that are doing so, and we'll encourage them to continue to do so. The big push is going to be financed through our resources from multilateral partners and resources from bilateral partners. And so the thing about the big push is about prioritization. We're going to choose the most pressing infrastructural projects that will create transformation for this country. And that is why I mentioned the various sectors in which we're going to look. The first source of funding is going to come from the annual budget funding amount, which is the ABFA. And that is money that we get from our from proceeds of our oil and gas sales. And so that's going to be the first. The 70% annual budget funding amount is going to be reserved for transformational infrastructure. And then all other multilateral support that we get from Afri-Exim Bank, from World Bank, from all the other multilateral agencies, African Development Bank, will all be geared towards that priority infrastructure project. And then also we have funds that will become available to us, like the Heritage Fund. It was supposed to be locked for 15 years. It will become available to Ghana in 2025 because we started from 2010 and it has accumulated $1.5 billion. And so we all have to decide as a nation, because it was Heritage Fund, it was for future generations, and it's been locked for 15 years. So that money, when it's unlocked, we have to decide how we're going to use it. Are we going to build a highway? We're going to finish the Eastern Corridor Road, building a railway, Western Railway line. We have to decide how we use it so that that infrastructure will be there for generations and future generations yet unborn. So these are all sources of funding that we envisage will be able to send the big push going. Aside from that, we will cut waste. I mean, spending money to go and build one village, one dams, that do nothing. There is none of those 1B, 1D where I've seen dry season agriculture taking place, because they were not fit for purpose. That's why we ask them, are they dugouts or they are dams? Because dams are different from dugouts. Dugouts are for animal watering, and then also for household use, for things like washing and things like that. But dams are different. You can use them for dry season agriculture. And they didn't answer the question. So finally we see that it was some small ponds that they were digging. And so if we cut the waste of spending money in those areas, the money all these development authorities are wasting, and we put them into transformational projects, we'll be able to change the face of this country in terms of infrastructure and generate economic prosperity for our people.
Of this public election. The president has a lot of things to do. So, distinguished members of his entourage, convocation, staff and students, alumni of the university, friends of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I am so delighted to welcome all of you to this public.
Vision was birthed at Oteno Madaso, a province of Kumasi. Na sa wo yam fuso na sa fitani wa anyika na mfiri no na wo ka kire ne se onye o ka amawa what is no odutwam me pa acho mama onim hwe 2016 no ane na DSC what did make an say ana. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the president has clearly laid out policies that can help to sustain our democracy. He has also stated that all those policies can only come to pass if you are the citizen, if you, the voter, do your part. I think it is embedded in every one here who cares about Ghana democracy, who believes about Ghana democracy, and who wants to see the consolidation of Ghana democracy to go out, propagate the message, and make sure that come 2024 general election, our democracy, which is the only hope many of us have, is consolidated. On that note, Your Excellency, I want to say a very big thank you. I also want to say thank you to the Vice Chancellor and the staff and all the invited guests for the opportunity to listen to such an insightful lecture. Also,